I want to talk about some things that people are not talking about, and it is surprising, not least COVID and how the parties dealt with COVID during these extraordinary times. People are talking about the overall excess deaths and forcing people to have vaccines and so on and so forth. Why do you think there is this conspiracy of silence, David?
Because what happened was shocking. Because the second and third lockdowns were completely unjustified, and I am absolutely livid about it. Elderly people were left alone, frightened and miserable, and they died on their own. And that was because we locked everyone down. We locked children down. They are now having huge problems integrating. They have huge problems with social skills. That is why mental health problems are rocketing and are off the scale. We also talk about the NHS waiting list. Well, that was caused because of the COVID lockdowns. Because what happened was all elective surgery was stopped, all routine appointments were stopped, and people, and I understand why the hospitals reacted in the way they did, but it was predicated on rubbish science. And so we now know that that was completely unnecessary. We were manipulated, actually, as a population. We were terrified. And there's a lot of very interesting articles being written about this, that they terrified the public so much that they were terrified into submission. I want a full public inquiry, a proper inquiry into why they called those lockdowns and what the effects were. When you look at other countries where they didn't lock down, their outcomes were better than ours.
I know, absolutely. And we were looking very recently at Sweden, and they didn't have any lockdowns. They basically, all the children went to school, the restaurants were all open, and they got a much better result. What's your take on it, Nick?
There's two reasons why we're not talking about it. The first reason is the public have moved on. The vast majority of the public have moved on. I'm not saying that's right or wrong, they just have. Another reason why we're not talking about it is because almost every politician, almost every organisation is complicit in this fraud, in these mistakes, in the avoidable deaths of so many people, in the destruction of our economy, in the fact that we're almost bankrupt now. And the people who were responsible, the people who failed to ask the right questions, the people who failed to understand the evidence, want to move on because they know. And we've got people now rewriting history. We have people now saying, I was against lockdowns. And I'm shouting at the TV going, I remember you for them. I remember the tweets you did telling people all to get vaccinated, you're going to kill your granny. People are rewriting history and we can't allow them to get away with it. So we do need an inquiry, but we need to make sure it's a quick inquiry. 2 years max. We need to get to the truth. And I want some people held accountable. I want some people sacked. I want some people shamed so much they have to resign. And if anything criminal's gone on, which I'm sure it has, I want people locked up. I don't want a 10, 15-year inquiry that comes to the conclusion that lessons have been learned. I'm sick of inquiries that deliver those lessons.
And Nick is absolutely right here, because actually we need to learn lessons now and we need to implement them now, because it's coming again. I'm seeing people in London wearing masks. Tell me why people are wearing masks driving a car when they're the only person in that car. And that's because they're frightened. They've been told to be frightened. Those masks are absolutely ineffective. So we need to learn lessons immediately and instigate them now, because we will see variants of COVID. We will see other viruses emerge. That is the nature of virology. And we need to be prepared.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. And those masks don't do anything. So it's complete nonsense. And we're living in fear. And that's the biggest problem. And I always say that history repeats itself because we don't learn the lessons.
Did you like that video? I think you did. Hit the bell, give it a big thumbs up, comment, and don't forget, I'm standing for election in Oldham East and Saddleworth. So please share this video, speak to your family and friends if you live in Greater Manchester, and if you live in Oldham East and Saddleworth, make sure you vote for me. Catch you soon.